welcome Mr. Walsch on the show Doing Life Happier. And I'm very honored to be able to speak with you today on so many things. I think you've written 39 books on contemporary spirituality and also its practical application to everyday life. And I think there's a need and an even more want in society these days for the kind of insights that you can share. And in these interview series, Doing Life Happier, we hope to find and hear and feel certain nuggets, and sometimes it can be a little bit, and for other people a lot, that we can take with us moving forward. And I hope I can ask you some questions.
Well, of course, thank you very much. It's lovely to be here with you. I hope you'll call me Neale. Thank you very much. Mr. Walsch feels a bit formal to me, so please call me Neale, and thank you for the opportunity to share this time with you. I agree with you that people really all over the world, Margaret, are searching now for a way out, frankly, of the mess that we seem to have collectively created without intending to. We didn't mean to. We weren't planning on life being the way it is now, but it's turning out that way. And so we're looking for a solution. What might be the way out of the circumstance and the situation, the unhappy events that have taken place, and the unhappy circumstance that we now find ourselves in as a species, as the human race, all over the world. So I think there is a way out of this. I think there are some things that we can do as a practical matter in our everyday life. And I'd be happy to have the chance to share some of that with you. I'd like to begin, if I could, our visit together by telling you what I think is the biggest problem in the world today.
Yes.
And that once we really approach that problem, once we begin to address that problem as a collective, I think we can start to move toward really solving the circumstances that make life on Earth right now so unhappy for so many people. With my awareness, I see that the biggest problem in the world today, Margaret, is that most people don't know what the biggest problem in the world today is. And that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, it almost immediately brings tears to my eyes. Yes, yeah. Yeah, you can continue. I'm listening.
Because you can't. What I'm seeing is that not even our world leaders, I mean our world religious leaders, our world political leaders, our world economic leaders, nobody in positions of power, if you please, seem to have any idea of what is causing the challenges we're facing today. The challenge, the outcome, the fallout, the result of the problem is very clear. We can see that. And I can put it in one word: alienation. I have never seen people more alienated from each other on this planet than they are in these days and times. If we see people who are in any way different from us, belong to a different nationality, belong to a different political party, belong to a different religion, belong to a different race, belong to a different culture, belong to a different economic group, anyone who's not part of our tribe, part of our, cultural family. So we see that there is enormous separation between people on our planet. And as long as we are separated from each other, we're not going to be able to solve the problems that we're facing, because it's going to take a unified approach. Humanity is going to have to bring itself together as one team. I almost want to call it humanity's team.
Yes.
As so that we're all wearing, to use a sports metaphor, so that we're all wearing the same jersey, the same uniform, with the same team name on the
Yes.
front, that we're all part of the same team.
Yeah.
And what stops us from doing that is we have embraced a belief in separation. We have decided that we're separate from everything, really, that we're separate from each other, we're separate from God, and we're even in some ways separate from life itself, in the sense that life is going on and we have no way to have any control over it. So the first step, in my opinion, the first step is for us to abandon our belief in separation.
Yeah.
And to embrace our belief, to embrace the idea that really we are all one, that there is no separation between us. You know, I can tell you one thing. If we were visited tomorrow morning by beings from outer space, if somehow entities from an alien world were to land on the earth and visit us, we would get very clear very fast that we are all one family.
I think so too.
And we would get very clear very fast that the only way we are going to solve the problem of being visited by alien nations is by joining together and banding together, holding hands together, and all agreeing that, yes, we are part of one family that we call the human race. But short of that, short of something as dramatic as being visited by an alien species, how can we bring ourselves together to stop bickering and fighting with each other, in some cases over the smallest kinds of disagreements? Surely there must be something we don't fully understand. And I want to suggest, you're going to be sorry, by the way, that you gave me a chance to talk with you, because I'm never going to stop talking.
I love good conversation.
So it's not going to be a conversation so much as a monologue or all I do.
Fine.
But let me just give you one more idea, and then we can talk back and forth about it. So, because I think that the solution, what could cause us to see ourselves as one unit and not as separate entities, would be to change our behaviors so that we stop modeling the behavior of what we imagine God to be. You know, Margaret, 8 out of 10 people in the world believe in some kind of higher power.
Yeah.
Surveys have shown, anthropologists, social scientists have taken surveys in the past 5 years. And those surveys are showing us that 8 out of 10 people believe there is some kind of higher power.
Yeah.
But almost everyone who believes in a higher power believes that it's separate from us. It's other than us. It is it, and we are us, and there's no connection.
Mm.
So we have to beg it, plead with it, pray to it, somehow beseech it to do something to help us down here on this planet. But the problem is bigger than that, Margaret. The problem is that we believe that this higher power is judging, condemning, and punishing. That is, if we don't do what it tells us to do, we will be judged, condemned, and punished. Now, the bad part about what we believe about God is we're modeling the same behavior with each other. Mm-hmm. We think, well, if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for us. So we are acting the way we believe that God acts. And we think it's good to be that way. So we judge and we condemn and we punish each other. If the other person has the wrong color skin or the wrong economic status or they're the wrong gender, or they belong to the wrong country, or they belong to the wrong political party. We judge them and then we condemn them, and we find a way to make them wrong, and even in some ways to economically, if not physically, punish them.
Yeah.
And it's all because we think that we're separate. If we were to abandon the idea of separation, these behaviors of ours, these dysfunctional behaviors, would resolve themselves and ultimately go away.
Because, it's mankind, of course, in the course of the centuries that has installed these institutions that have cut off the human from God by putting in place a hierarchy. That has been a strong element in basically cutting off people from the nature-led divine connection, as we see in ancient religions or in ancient cultures, the way they dealt with their higher power of the higher esprit. So it is sometimes it's basically at least after with the introduction of Christianity as well, that at a certain moment the institutions have caused also these separations, and there are currents that try to say like, no, you have a direct line with God, and it's religion and God has been hijacked almost by systems, right? Could we say it like that?
I agree with you. It's a wonderful way to put it. I think that spirituality has been hijacked by religions. And it's not, and let me say this, because I don't want people to think that I'm a person who's against religions.
No, me neither.
I think that the world's great religions have much to teach us and much to share with us.
Yes.
But here's I think the problem. I think that religions are simply incomplete. That is, they don't have all the answers. And the sadness about many of the world's religions is that many of them believe they have all the answers.
Yeah.
That there's nothing more to know about life and about God and about who we are. So we should stop asking questions, stop doubting the answers we've already been given, and simply accept what's in the book, the so-called good book, the Upanishads. No, I mean the Quran. No, I mean the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. No, I mean the New Testament. I mean, there are, what people don't realize is that there are, by actual count, over 4,300 different faith traditions on the face of the earth right now. And we can't agree on one single statement that could bring us all together. So what I am suggesting in the God solution is that maybe we could find a way to articulate a foundational thought about God upon which all the world's religions could agree. Mm-hmm. And that if we could create that one single sentence that all religions could agree on, that could be a principle, an ethic for humanity that we could all support and rally around and end our separation from each other, because we've all come to agree on a single simple statement about God.
Yes.
And about who we are.
And I think it's such a beautiful endeavor. Is that the right word, endeavor?
Yes, courageous. It's a perfect word. Yes.
It's also courageous, and I understand where also your drive must be coming from to try to grasp this. So I've read it. I think it's wonderful the way you take us also as reader through the process and what we need to let go of for a moment. And it's really, I say to the audience, please get the book because it's so valuable. At the other hand, I was thinking, but the mystical God, the one you can't catch. He's always he's always different than what you think. He's always slipping away. How can we, which is something beautiful also of God or Allah or whomever we want to call him, that we cannot define. And that we are still discussing over it causes maybe pain also in society, but it's also showing that he doesn't want to be catched somehow. Do you understand? That was just what it was in my mind when I was reading.
Well, I think that what she doesn't want, oh, and by the way, it's a she, not a he.
Oh.
Anybody who's married knows who the higher power is. It's the she, not the he. Just joking, just having a little fun, because God doesn't really have a gender.
Oh.
See, you're right. God resists our attempts to define God in a certain way.
Yeah.
Not only is God judging, condemning, and punishing, God is also male, must be male, couldn't possibly be female. God is also totally separate from us. We couldn't, even though religions teach us, many religions teach us that we are made in the image and likeness of God.
Yeah.
But what we have done is we've made God in the image and likeness of us. We think that God is small-minded the way we are, easily offended the way we are, absolutely judging the way we are, judgmental. We think that God is condemning just the way we are, and we think that God is punishing just the way we are.
May I ask you something about it? Because
no, you may not ask me any questions. I don't want to hear any questions from you for the rest of your natural life.
Okay, well, then we go artificial intelligence. Now, because I'm not raised at all in that spirit of the condemning God and on the judging God. So for me, I find it almost, I just say it, I mean, archaic if people, and I know they're still existing, think still in this way about the judging God and you go to hell. And I know that in many cultures, it's still ingrained in the way.
My dear, do you know how many billions of people on the planet believe in a judging, condemning, punishing God? We're talking about not just a few, we're talking about billions of people.
Yeah, it's
the world's major religions, Christianity, is Islam, the world's major religions absolutely believe in a judging, punishing, condemning God. There's no question about that.
But still, I mean, we're 2000, still, I mean, I know from certain, of course, texts that have, of those has been said, okay, we should no further interpret those, but to say like the condemning God and the one with the finger. And now let's move on to what you've been discovering in your book, because you come out at the opposite side around true love. So it's not the condemning God, but we are talking about true love if we want to speak about it.
I am suggesting to people that if we redefined God, if we come up with a new definition of who and what God is, and if it was a definition upon which all the religions could agree, suddenly, for the first time in human history, we would have what I would call an umbrella statement. We would have one particular ethic that we could all embrace and move forward from there in the creation of our everyday human experience. So what I'm suggesting is, what if we said that God is pure love? What if we chose to redefine God as pure love, which is a statement that most of the world's religions cannot agree on when we decide what pure love is? People often say to me, "Oh, Neale, that's not a new idea. Everyone agrees that God is love. Mm-hmm. All the world's religions agree that God is love." And then I have to explain to them, wait a minute, I didn't say God is love. You didn't hear me say God is love. I said God is pure love.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between love as we understand and as we practice it on the earth and pure love. Then a person might say, okay, what's the difference? And then I have to explain, pure love is a love that needs, expects, requires, and demands nothing in return.
Yeah.
And we can't imagine such a love. We can't interact with each other that way. We can't even express that kind of love to the person across the room or the person across the street, much less the person across the world. We can't even express that kind of love with each other. So how could we possibly imagine a God who could express that kind of love? But my question, the question that I pose for all of humanity is, if God really is the highest power, if we really believe that God created the universe, that God created life, that God is the source of everything that there is, then it would be a simple step to acknowledging that that entity would need nothing because it's created everything that it could possibly need. It does, nor does it need our admiration. It doesn't need our worship. It doesn't even need us to believe in God.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, we can begin to love each other the way God loves us, with pure love that needs and demands nothing in response to the love that it gives us. Now, if human beings could love each other that way, it could change our political, our economic, our social, and our spiritual interactions overnight. And everything would be different.
So to get there, because I'm working also with a lot of people, and what I notice is that people think also that they care and they love, and their love is a form of control. Yeah, you see it, for example, in parenting, it happened, but also in relationships between men, women. And I sometimes think like people can only love this pure love or do this pure love when they first truly love themselves.
I agree.
If that's not there, then this true love, because a lot of people are fooling their partner by not showing up as their real person. They're showing up as how they ought to show up, maybe
how they think they should, and they're also showing up as someone who needs the love of another in order to be happy in their life. But if we love I think you're perfectly correct, Margaret. If we love ourselves, then we don't depend on the other person to supply us with what we imagine ourselves to be missing. Then we can turn toward others and love them purely without needing any kind of response. That's how the Buddha, the man who called Buddha, loved. That's how the man that we know as Jesus loved. That's how Muhammad loved. Bless his holy name. That's how all the great, truly great spiritual masters, both male and female, through the years, have loved. They didn't really require anything in return. And human beings who have adopted that model stand out among us as an exemplar of what it means to be truly divine in the way we interact with the world.
Yeah. So I once read, and in the beginning I was a bit shocked, but that maybe it's almost too heavy to put it here, but to say that to be able to love fully, you first need to detach from, indeed, the opinions, the judgments from others, so that you can fully accept yourself as you are and detach from what somebody else says about you or the way they try to define you, which means, but if you would teach people like people don't engage too much with each other, just detach from what everybody thinks. That's also not the way to go.
That's way too deep to be brought in here.
Yeah.
You should never bring such a deep subject into. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I'm just joking.
Okay, now good.
I think people are smart enough to understand, and they can go to that deep place But here's what I think: detaching doesn't mean no longer connecting with other people.
Oh, thank you. Yes, that's good. Yeah, I agree.
Detaching simply means detaching from our own need to be approved of. And it means detaching from our own fears that others won't like us. It means detaching from our own ideas that we are all alone out here and we have to do our best to survive. It means detaching from our thought that if there is a God, God is up there and we're down here, and never the two shall meet, except on Judgment Day, when we will be judged for what we may have done that was not okay with God. So it means, so detachment does not mean no longer connecting with other people. In fact, it means exactly the opposite. When we detach from our own fears and our own needs, then we are available to truly connect with others.
Yeah.
Without our connection being a transaction. These days, most of our connections are transactional. I'll do this for you, you do this for me.
Yeah,
We have, and so we have we're almost like countries, like nations have trade agreements. We have trade agreements with each other. I will love you in this way if you will love me in that way. I will give you what I have to offer. You give me what you have to offer. And on Valentine's Day, which is coming up very soon, on Valentine's Day, we find the perfect card to give to our beloved partner. Dear, sweet person, I trade you very much. And I will never stop trading you. I will trade you until the end of time. We'll call it love, but it really is a trade agreement. But if you stop trading me, if you stop giving me what I need to get from you, then the deal is off. Mm-hmm. Then we're done. And we have to no longer be in a relationship together. So what we are talking about here is not detaching from other people, but detaching from our own false ideas, our own fears of not being approved of, and our own utterly complete misunderstandings about who we are and why we're here on the planet. Yeah. And that's what I think we should talk about next. Yes, somebody should ask me, really, who are we and why are we here on the planet?
I'm going to ask you this question. Who are we?
Strange you should ask.
I draw a lot with people, with my clients, and I often have them drawing a star because I think we have this capacity to shine and to be explosive and everything at the same time, and we can disappear and we can shine and we can come back. So who are we? I don't want to define us human beings as stars. We are a bunch of stars, yes, in a sack of skin, right? I mean, we do, it sounds a bit blunt, but it's, I think, biologically what we are. We are miracles. We are nature.
Well, people have to make a basic decision. Am I a physical entity, simply just a physical being, like a bird in the sky or a fish in the sea? I'm born, I live, I die, and that's the beginning and the end of it. Or is it possible that I'm more than that? Yeah. Is it possible that I'm a spiritual entity, having a body and having a mind, but that I'm not my body and I'm not my mind? I am that which has a body and a mind. Yeah. I am, at my basis, I am a spiritual entity, or what you might call a shining star in the universe. It's a metaphor, but I understand the metaphor. So, because it's a metaphor that suggests we're a lot bigger than we think that we are. So I'm suggesting to people, once we embrace our true identity, that we are spiritual entities who will live forever, entities that have eternal life, then we suddenly see life and our reason for being in the realm of the physical from an entirely different perspective. Now, if a person says, you know what, I really believe that I am a spiritual entity, then we have to ask the question, then why would I be here? Why would a spiritual entity choose to live this life in this body, in this crazy place called Earth? What would be the point of that? And the point, as I have come to understand it in my conversations with God, is that we have taken on a physical form in order for us to directly experience, not just to know intellectually, not just to know metaphorically or metaphysically or spiritually, but to know in actuality through the demonstration and the experience of it, to know who we really are. Or to put it in one sentence, the purpose of our life is to provide us with an opportunity to demonstrate and to experience our divinity, that we are one, that we are one with God, that God is in fact not separate from us at all, but that each of us is an individuation of God. And I want to offer another metaphor that people might be able to grasp and to be able to accept the idea that God and we are the same thing in a more complete way. Think of it in this way. God told me, Neale, you are like a wave on the ocean of God. Think of the ocean, and in the middle of the ocean, the wave arises from the ocean. The wave is not separate from the ocean. It's not something other than the ocean. It is not the ocean. It's not the totality of the ocean. It's simply an arising, an expression. It's an individual expression of the ocean.
Yeah.
Powerful expression, beautiful expression, magnificent expression, but an expression of the ocean itself. And when the expression is complete, the wave recedes back into the ocean from which it came.
Yeah.
That's a metaphor that explains our relationship to God. I am a wave on the ocean of divinity. And I have chosen to physicalize, to become part of the physical realm in order that I might demonstrate and express and experience who I really am. Excuse me. That's my understanding. And since I've been going through life with that understanding, and also with the understanding that everyone else is likewise an individuation of divinity, suddenly I don't see us as separate from each other, and I don't see us as separate from God, but simply as individual arisings, individual expressions
it's well put
of divinity.
And because you're talking a few times about choice, that we are choosing to come here, but isn't that a projection from the fact that we are human, that we think that as a arising being we can choose before we become human?
I think it's the truth.
Yeah.
I think as spiritual entities, as souls, what I'm going to call souls, or spiritual essences, of course we have free choice. That there is such a thing as the soul, that the soul is the individual spiritual expression of each of us. And I believe that the soul chooses quite deliberately, intentionally, to come into physical form. And by the way, not just once, but again and again and again, through the centuries, through the eons, in what I call the process that others refer to as reincarnation.
Yes.
That we reincarnate, that is, we become physical again. Maybe the next time as a woman, as a man. Maybe the next time, as a person of a different color, person of a different sexual orientation. So we reincarnate so that we can have the expansive expression of what it means to be alive as an individuation of divinity. I could be wrong about all of that. And I want to make it clear. I don't think that I'm that I'm infallible. You know, like the Pope is supposed to be infallible. I'm
You're
not.
human.
I'm not suggesting that I'm right about all of that. But I am
Yeah.
going to say this: since I've begun living this way,
Yeah.
my whole life has changed for
Yes.
the better,
Mhm.
profoundly for the better. And so I do believe that if most people on the earth decided, if nothing else, decided that we are all part of the same family, we are all one, life on earth could change virtually overnight. Right now, we can't even agree with each other about simple things. For instance, we have a pandemic, supposedly have a pandemic that's going on around the world. Some people don't even believe there is a pandemic. But what's even worse is that those people who believe that there are ways to approach this pandemic around the world can't even agree on how to do it. We can't even find a way to get medicines and the help that everyone needs. We have to construct all sorts of obstacles that make it impossible for some people to get the help that they need to overcome our current situation. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Let me make one more point, if I
Yes, of
may.
course.
653 children on this planet die
Yeah.
every hour of starvation.
Yeah.
How is that possible? How is it possible for a species that imagines itself to be an advancing species
Mhm.
to allow 653 of its children to die every hour of
That is-
starvation while we throw away more than enough food in the restaurants of Tokyo and Los Angeles to feed an entire village in third world for a week?
Yeah.
What's the matter with us? Oh,
Yeah.
I see. We don't know who we really are in relationship to each other. Neil, you're bringing up all the problems of the world. But that, we can't solve all the problems of the world. Actually, we could if we decided that they were our problems and not just their problems over there.
I think they do play indeed this in the for some people back of the mind global issues that they are aware of. I think it does play out in our daily lives. I believe that we as humans do still have this sensitivity to know deep down that we can do better, right? I think most people know, and I think the fact that they neglect that they know better, that's what making them unhappy and also sick sometimes. Because I think we know deep down that, of course, we are all, yeah, you're lucky when you're born here, or you're a little bit less lucky when you're born there. But even in, I mean, I think deep down we know. Don't you think so?
If we know, why aren't we working together to end the problems, to bring the problems to an end?
Because too many people think that on their own, their little contribution doesn't help, maybe.
Oh, no. If they, I'm sorry if they think that their little contribution doesn't help. The problem is not that their little contribution doesn't help. The problem is that they see what's going on over there, and they do not see that as part of their own family. We actually want to build walls around our countries.
Yeah.
Because because they're not part of us. They're not one with us. So I got an idea. Let's build walls around our country so nobody can get in. So nobody can get in except those that we like and those that we approve of.
Yeah.
And then we can have all the goodies. And if the people who want to get in, the reason they want to get in is because they don't have the goodies. They're living in absolute poverty. Some of them are actually starving. 600 children an hour are starving. But you know what? Keep them out. We don't want, because if they come in, they're going to want to have some of our good stuff. And we've worked hard enough to get our good stuff. And they can get their own good stuff.
Yeah,
That's the way a primitive species behaves. That's the way a primitive civilization behaves.
yes.
But there was a guy in France, I think his name was Alexandre Dumas, I think. He wrote a book called The Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
And in The Three Musketeers, they had an interesting idea that went like this: all for one and one for all.
Yeah.
Was he way ahead of his time, or was he so outmoded that he was so old-fashioned? Which would it be? But I remember what all the great spiritual masters through the centuries have told us. I remember the words of Jesus, which were striking words that Jesus said. Even as you treat these, the least among you, you treat me.
Yes.
Do unto others as you would have it done unto you.
Yeah.
And if a man asks you for your coat, give him your shirt as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if a man asks you to walk 1 mile with him, go with him too.
Yes.
And judge not, and neither condemn. And raise not your fist to heaven, and curse the darkness not, but be a light unto the darkness,
Yeah.
that you might know who you really are, and that all those whose lives you touch might know who they really are as well.
Yeah.
My friends, it's really very simple, very simple. I can put it into 4 words. We are all one.
Bravissimo. Yes, I'm happy that I can say I agree. And I'm happy that you've been willing to share this with us, with all of us. We have a large audience from different plumage, I don't know how you say this in English, from different feathers worldwide. And I think that your message is personal and universal. And I think everybody must have understood this. I could invent, I have a whole list of questions. I can tell them all, but there are many more audiences that you can share your wisdom with. And I'm very happy with what you wanted to say here today.
Thank you very much. The book is called The God Solution. Pick up The God Solution, and you'll be able to gather all of these ideas in one place and then see if you agree. You may not agree, you may disagree, and that's okay. But give it a chance.
Yes, I think, and I want to add to that because I've read it and I think it's absolutely something that's the people they have a notebook and they can write everything down. So we say, make sure you read this book. Yes, The God Solution. Thank you very much for your wonderful work.
You're very welcome, my friend Margaret. Thank you for having me on with you and giving me the opportunity to share my ideas. As I said, people may not agree with me, and that's perfectly okay. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I do think that the answers we have been given so far are not working. We can all see that. The answers we've been given so far are not working. So why don't we try something new?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll write a book one day called Try Something New.
Yeah. Let's do that. And we can start today, huh?
We could start this minute, yes.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you, Margaret, for having me with you.
Thank you very much.